After 2.5 years of just doing it, just couldn't anymore with Amazon. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why you shouldn't have overlooked this particular piece of business news as if it was just more noise, especially if you are a business that is selling on Amazon. To make this video more impactful, I think it's important for us to kind of go back to the early start of this business relationship, this partnership between Amazon and Nike. So in the summer of 2017, Nike decided to create a partnership with Amazon. They had already been selling in a way by third-party sellers, having listings, selling their products on Amazon for as long as probably Amazon has been selling things outside of books. But Nike had not had a direct relationship with the internet retailer. And what I'm talking about here is the relationship is as a vendor, so as a wholesaler. They're actually selling the product to Amazon directly. And it begs the question, like, why did it take Nike so long to do this, especially when the majority of large companies have some relationship with Amazon? The reasons why Nike kind of entered this relationship, this partnership, was first and kind of most importantly was they needed to get a handle on the counterfeit and gray market products, kind of unauthorized products that were on the Amazon marketplace. Secondly, Nike wanted access to the massive, loyal customer base of Amazon. And thirdly, they wanted to have a better control over the image of their brand on the Amazon platform. A lot of times, Amazon and the listings have just as much, if not more, views per month that most brands get on their own websites. So it becomes kind of the first or the second website in a lot of cases. If the listings are getting built by third-party sellers, the odds are they're not doing it to the level that Nike would expect, being such a strong brand-forward company. So that's how I saw it in that time frame. That's kind of where I saw the importance at in this partnership. Honestly, at the time, I remember making some posts about how I thought this was a good partnership as long as both sides kind of upheld their side of the bargain. And Amazon was getting out of this that they have and still are trying to sell a lot more athletic apparel and footwear on their marketplace. So having the biggest one selling and being in partners with them is a great thing for Amazon. So it kind of bared fruits for both sides as long as everybody upheld the expectations in the partnership. So what happened over these last 2.5 years then? Why did this relationship sour and why did Nike end up walking away? I think it all comes down, honestly, to the confidence that Nike has now in their own ability to create a compelling, authentic, unique digital experience around some of the marketing they do now, some of the technologies and apps and things that they offer now, and also just the overall shopping experience, the commerce experience that you get for their direct-to-consumer site. I think over these last 2.5 years, they've really proven out that they can do it at a high level. And you have to remember that Nike and most consumer brands up until recently have been wholesale businesses. Nike was a wholesale business. Basically, what I mean here is that they did some high-level brand marketing campaigns and things of that nature. They obviously created the products, but third-party retailers like a Foot Locker would then see the demand on their side. They would order the product. Nike would obviously put some supply-side orders in to make sure that they can meet the demand. And the relationship, the actual experience with the customer was left for the retailer. It was not necessarily Nike doing that micro one-on-one relationship building with the customer. But instead of Nike just kind of watching this all erode around them and just sitting on their hands and saying, well, what do we do now? Nike's been one of the most aggressive, large consumer brands to completely reinvent and transform themselves to work very well within this new retail landscape reality in which they live in. Today, obviously, Nike does a good amount of business on their direct-to-consumer. They have direct relationships with their consumers, and this is working for them. I think recently in the first quarter maybe of 2019, Nike CEO had stated on a call that they'd done their first quarterly $1 billion in digital sales. Digital sales still only account for like 10% of Nike. I think if you count some of their store level physical stores as well, I think that number jumps up to maybe closer to 30%. But Nike is still primarily these third-party relationships, these third-party retailers, but they're growing at 40%, I think, year over year in terms of their digital sales. So they're gaining a lot of confidence, and that number is growing very quickly, in which is that digital direct-to-consumer slice of the retail pie is becoming bigger. So if you think about all this, Nike is an extremely confident kind of company right now in their digital presence, and they believe that Amazon needs them more than they need Amazon. So that's kind of where we're at now, and why you saw the recent news around Nike kind of ending this partnership that they've created. So going back to like the expectations in terms of the original partnership, Nike thinking around helping them gate the counterfeit and gray market unauthorized kind of selling of product on Amazon. They obviously thought that was going to be much stronger than what Amazon has provided them. They don't believe that they've met that standard. They've not helped them. They've not allowed them to create a better customer experience. There's still a ton of kind of counterfeit or gray or unauthorized products that are on the marketplace. So Nike obviously is not happy in that their expectation of the arguably the most important part of this partnership was not met. Secondly, around Nike wanting access to Amazon's customer base, this one was kind of fulfilled. I mean, obviously, Amazon had a bunch of listings for Nike's products. They had access to Amazon's massive loyal customer base. I think they have about 38% of total e-commerce market share in the US. So they had the ability to create a ton of transactions by Amazon having their listings in prime position. But I think the problem that arose is that Nike thought that they would get some more customer data in this relationship. They realized that all those transactions maybe were great for the top line and maybe the bottom line of their financials, but it was not able to create any benefit for them long term. They were not able to keep some more information on customers to create a better, longer kind of customer lifetime value. This was not their customer. This was Amazon's customer. So that kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in Nike's mouth. And then the third one around just Nike being able to create a better image on the Amazon marketplace. I think visually they were obviously able to do that when they created or owned the listings. They were able to go in and make them as seamless in terms of the aesthetics that Nike has on their own direct-to-consumer site and a lot of their marketing. So everything looked like it was Nike. The problem was underneath that, the layers underneath that, is that Nike also was struggling with just the listing and the amount of sellers and how that was creating a bunch of pricing discrepancies. And this was hurting like customer experience. When a customer went on to buy a certain pair of Nike shoes, they get on a listing, maybe that listing has 20 sellers and each one of those sellers has a very drastically different price set. Nike did not like that because they knew that that was creating some level of distrust and friction with their customers that they didn't want happening. I think the onus here is on both sides of this relationship. This was definitely not Amazon's fault completely. And any professional that has been in Amazon or worked in Amazon for any period of time knows that Amazon exposes some of your bad business practices. And Nike had some bad business practices. They had some pricing issues in terms of probably their wholesalers, their contracts with wholesalers, and the retailers, both online and physical retailers, were probably not properly put in place for something like an Amazon. So you had a bunch of sellers putting their supply on the Amazon marketplace. And a marketplace, if you think about it, is very much like a very simple Econ 101, like supply demand curve. You have a certain amount of fixed demand based on the different variables. That doesn't necessarily change unless you pull a lever. So just adding more supply on the platform on Amazon does not necessarily create more demand unless somebody pulls one of the levers. And most of the time it's pulled around price. And as the price gets lower, demand, naturally kind of rises there. And that's what ends up happening when these third-party sellers have aging inventory and things, those shoe boxes are getting dust on them. They're obviously going to lower the price to spike demand, get those items off their books and create some cash around there. And that's what's happening there. That has really nothing to do with Amazon outside of maybe Amazon could gate the listings a little bit better, but that's not necessarily what Amazon is about. So because of these reasons and kind of the expectations that Nike had around the partnership, they had to leave. They had to make that hard decision to leave. That might hurt their kind of short-term revenue, and maybe they've had to make that trade-off for the long-term brand and brand experience. But that was a decision that Nike's senior leadership had to make. But I think Nike was in a really good position to make this decision because, like I said, they've had a ton of confidence getting built around their direct-to-consumer shopping experience, the infrastructure, the technology, all the things that kind of encompass the whole experience has been very good. I have shopped extensively on both Amazon and Nike, and I don't necessarily see too much of a difference when you kind of break it down. Now, there's obviously things that both do very well, but Nike has done a really good job to increase their infrastructure, increase just the ease of shopping and the navigation and all kinds of other things that obviously Amazon does really well, and there's a convenience aspect involved with that. The returns are pretty seamless, and Nike has kind of built out a network of stores in which you can pick items up that you ordered if you don't want to deliver them to your house. So they've done a really good job, and they've had a really good base to stand on making this decision. So Nike thinks, our brand, the experience, the shopping experience, everything that encompasses this is strong enough to be a comparable trade-off to the convenience elements and things that Amazon is going to provide. And this might kind of pose a question for the businesses and the leaders and things that are watching this video. And they're probably thinking, maybe I should consider also getting off of Amazon. Maybe there is some things that would benefit my brand if I did get off there. And that is a very micro question. That's a very individual question that would need to be answered for yourself based around your variables. But what I would say more times than not is just consider some of the things that I'm going to mention here and make sure that you are not getting overly confident based around a decision that Nike had made. First one was around Nike's connection with their customers. I would guess that you likely do not have the strength and years of connection that Nike has with their particular customers. Secondly, Nike has built out an extremely compelling shopping experience from a digital perspective, and their infrastructure has grown a ton to be comparable to a Amazon. I'm going to guess that you haven't put in the investment in that area or have comparable things to be able to lean on like Nike does. And then thirdly is that you probably don't have a quick replacement for this revenue that you're going to lose in the short term. And you likely don't have the available kind of cash to level out some of the long-term ambitions in which you would like to get off the platform, maybe for whatever reasons. So you have to understand that Nike's probably in a much different situation. Their variables are much different. So you likely have to consider something else. And I'll kind of cover that at the end of the video here and use it within the framework of Nike, just for continuation purposes. Now, on the other hand, this decision, we've been talking about this from like the perspective of Nike. If you think about this from Amazon's perspective, this is not good. I mean, you do not want to have a brand of that level getting out of a partnership, and the optics do not look all that good. Nike did not represent any real material difference to the revenue of Amazon. This is not something they have to worry about at all from a revenue perspective. What it does is creates maybe some momentum for other brands to get confident to jump off the platform, especially the leading, very strong brands that maybe will look at Nike and look at all the variables I just talked about and say like, we can make this change. We can operate from a digital e-commerce perspective without Amazon. So Amazon is honestly kind of scared here that there's going to be a mass exodus of brands on their platform. And that's honestly Amazon's dilemma as a whole right now, and why maybe they've backed off a little bit on their private label accelerator, private label growth in general. They comparable to like a Walmart or a Target or a Kroger or any of these kind of major retailers. Amazon's private label percentage of their sales is very small comparable to all these other ones, but they have a little bit different of a situation than some of these other retailers. And because of that, they've had to really watch this whole situation. Amazon undeniably has a ton of eyeballs on them. A ton of money gets spent on their platform. Brands want to be able to access those eyeballs and get some of that share of revenue. But a lot of brands are struggling to really mold Amazon into the brand experience that they would like long term and be able to build overall brand loyalty on the marketplace. So this kind of leaves Amazon in one of these catch-22 type of dilemmas. But while this kind of partnership has ended in the short term, I honestly think this is a partnership that is going to start up sometime in the future. I definitely think this is going to be a breakup to makeup type of a story with Nike and Amazon. Recently at a retail conference, Nike's like leader in terms of like their marketplace strategy talked about how they do not want to exit marketplaces forever. I think that he realizes that in the short term, it's not going to work for what they're looking to do. So they need to press the reset button. But long term, I think that they're going to be able to figure out a way to mold into either the model of Amazon for what they're looking for, or Amazon's going to be able to provide a compelling reason for Nike to come back. So for this partnership to kind of come back together, Amazon's going to need to address a lot of the counterfeit problems, unauthorized sellers. They're going to need to create some type of experience for brands that have an elevated brand experience that they're seeking. They're not going to be able to just keep providing the same proposition to brands and them continuously be excited to work with Amazon, especially if they are of the stature of Nike. And then on the flip side, regardless of what Amazon ends up doing, Nike's going to figure out a way to kind of mold themselves into this in a different way. Now that they saw how Amazon works and saw what they're going to do from their expectations, I think that Nike's going to figure out a way to get back into Amazon and use it for transactional customers. Not all Nike customers want to be, this brand, all-encompassing, feel the emotion, culture of the brand. Sometimes they just need a decent pair of shoes or a good quality t-shirt, and that's it. They could care less. They're wearing it, but they're not really attached to the brand. And that's what Amazon provides very well for them. They're able to get access to a lot of these transactional customers. So I think Nike finds a way to get back into this and figure out a way to mold themselves maybe in some kind of lower end SKU way, maybe similar to what they do with some of their other kind of like lower cost retailers that they kind of dump some of their old previous items. So this is kind of some different ways to think about it, especially from Nike's perspective. If you're a brand, you're a business, can you provide something similar in terms of maybe only providing certain items so you can still get access to the eyeballs, make sure that your brand image aesthetics is well composed on the platform so people can get a feeling of your brand, they can get the information they need about your brand, and maybe then they get off platform if they want to have a bigger, stronger relationship with you. Those are kind of things that maybe you need to kind of want to think about when we're talking about this storyline here. So it'll be interesting to see which both parties learned here and just kind of see where this goes in the future. I hope you guys were able to pull the lessons in which I was talking about this, be able to apply it into your own particular situations. Most of my videos utilize storylines to hopefully give you guys some conversation around strategy so you guys can maybe digest it and put it into your business in a way that can work in the micro. If for any reason you ever are struggling to kind of figure out and maybe you think this is something that is applicable, but you're not exactly sure how to create some competitive advantage or benefit from it, please feel free to contact me anytime. I would love to talk about how we could work together on a more micro level. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.